Oh dear, 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 dear. Poor Thunderfoot has made a right mess of things, hasn't he? Over in YouTube land, there is a bit of a hoo-ha going on. Thunderfoot has got himself in a bit of a mess, and the atheists are in a bit of a mess. They're all over the place. Now, there is a guy called PZ Mayers who's an atheist, and there is Thunderfoot who's an atheist, and I'll give you an atheist who explains what's happening and what's been happening with these poor atheists.
This video is going to be as brief as I can make it. I'm still working on the Science of Race Part 2, and it should be up shortly. Be sure to join us on the Magic Sandwich Show tomorrow. Our guests will be theoretical bullshit, and I think we'll have an interesting and lively discussion. It's the usual time, usual place. I want to talk about Thunderfoot and his recent expulsion from Free Thought Blogs by PZ Myers. I consider Thunder a friend, even when we don't always agree, and I thought PZ's actions were pretty dodgy. What I want to address, though, is the psychology behind this interaction. To briefly recount the events in question, Thunder kicked off his new blog with posts on the issue of sexism at atheist conferences. He tried to apply his usual rational, objective perspective to come at the issue as an outsider, a neutral party, a non-combatant. It's the same thing I try to do with controversial issues. That's precisely the problem, though. Thunder hasn't been involved in the long history of feminist thought in the secular movement. PZ has. Thunder doesn't have a strong opinion, hasn't engaged in debates, and hasn't fought this battle for the last few decades. PZ has. I'll give you an example of what it must have looked like to PZ. Imagine that Stephen Hawking was asked to speak to a group of evolutionary biologists. He offers, as an unbiased observer, the position that perhaps intelligent design really ought to be taught alongside evolution in the public school classroom, as an exercise in critical thinking. Ginny Scott of the NCSC is sitting in the front row. How would she feel? She'd have a headache from the Lightspeed facepalm. She'd feel that her movement had been set back, and she'd certainly want to distance herself from Dr. Hawking and his comments. He'd never be invited back if she had her way. In every one of these controversial debates, the process of discussion, the process of defending a viewpoint, almost inevitably leads to radicalization, a pulling towards one polar position. Eventually, we have two sides trading barbs, the discussion brought to a halt by too many harsh words, like two armies lined up across a no-man's land. Some newcomer blunders in, Thunderfoot, and makes a statement that seems to slightly favor one position, when it repeats some old position held by one group. Instantly, the other side identifies the person as a future opponent, and they immediately distance themselves. This isn't about malevolence, it's just the nature of an intractable debate. I find myself falling in the same trap. There is nothing like a debate with a radical to radicalize me. I find that the more I engage with marijuana evangelists, the more fervently I assert the harms of cannabis. Every time I engage with anti-GMO campaigners, it pulls me inexorably towards a pro-GMO position. Being presented with outrageous statements makes us rush to the defense of a position of reason, but it generates a momentum towards the opposite pole. It takes a conscious effort on my part to maintain my open-mindedness, and I don't always succeed. I don't particularly care if Thunderfoot's position was right or wrong, mostly because I have no investment in feminism or its opposition, no reason to engage on this issue. His video may have oversimplified the issue, or it may be outright wrong and hurt the cause of a diverse secular community. I think his conflict with PZ was just that he wasn't a partisan. By not supporting that position, he necessarily became the enemy. I don't blame PZ, because I can understand what this looks like to him as well.
So, basically, the atheists are all over the place. You've got the chauvinist, and you've got the feminist. And Thunderfoot has blundered in it because at the kind of various atheist meetings, the Reason Rally type of meetings that they have. There was a bit of harassment, not sort of sexual harassment or anything, but the men were hitting on the women, you know, and the women didn't like it, and Thunderf00t spoke out about it, and it's blown up in his face. But basically, they're all over the place, the atheists. They can't agree with themselves. They don't know where they're coming. They don't know what they're trying to do, and it's a bit of a mess, really, and it's a bit of a joke. So I think that you can't go around telling everybody that atheism is the right thing when you can't even agree amongst yourselves. You don't even know what you're doing. You're ostracizing your own people, and it's a pretty bit of a joke, really. So I think atheists, you just need to sort yourselves out. I think that it looks pretty bad. It looks pretty pathetic, and you know, it just shows that you, as atheists, you've got no intellectual credibility at all when you can't even sort out a major issue like this in a proper, amicable way. It's pretty sad, really, pretty sad, and I think it's the demise, perhaps even the end of this militant atheism when they can't even sort themselves out on a basic issue like this. It's very sad, but there we are.